Hello everyone. Today I'm talking about a very heavy topic, and that is the topic of spanking. First, to get out of the way, I am not here to judge you. I am a flawed mom, always looking to learn and to grow, and I want to share with you a different way to parent today. About 80% of households are saying that they use spanking as a form of discipline in their homes. And that to me is an appalling number, because if people only knew how that affects children and that affects them into adulthood, they really would take a different approach. The truth is that there's no learning in spanking. In fact, the only learning that really happens in spanking is that the child learns to fear you. The child learns that violence resolves conflict. And it's only a matter of time until that child will start using violence against you, their siblings, or anyone else. And children that are hit have issues with behavior. They have issues with self-regulation. They have issues with anxiety and depression. And there's been studies that have tracked children into adulthood, and they have studied that children that have been spanked as children, when they are adults, they're more prone to anxiety, depression, mental disorders, binge drinking, alcohol, peer pressure, social issues, and so much more. In fact, they have interviewed people in prison, inmates, criminals, and most of them admit to having endured physical abuse as children. So if we know this, if we know that there's a track record here, that children that are hit others, and adults that were hit as children have issues, then where do we end that cycle? I work with moms in my private community of Bloom Sisters, and a question that I get a lot is, my child is hitting their sibling, my child is hitting me, my child kicks and screams and spits and kicks. How can I help them? And the first thing that I ask is, do you hit that child? And the reason I want to know this is because I know that about 90% of what children portray is copied and imitated behavior. And the answer that I get from the moms is, yes, we used to hit them, or we're currently hitting them to teach them. And I know that's the answer, because children will learn violence from when they're hit. They will learn violence from their parents. If their parents abuse each other, they will learn violence from the cartoons and the movies that they're watching, and they will imitate that. Imitation is how children learn. That's how their brains work, and that's how they learn when they're little. And so first comes imitation and then understanding. And it's really important that we are good role models and that we are portraying the behavior that we want our children to see, because we are a mirror to them. And if we want them to change, the first thing that we have to do is change ourselves. And it's hard to hear that. It really is hard, but it's the truth. It really is the truth. And now violence is not just hitting and spanking. Violence is also yelling. Yes, yelling is a form of violence. Ear pulling, pinching, shaking, threatening. Those are all forms of violence that you are teaching your children. And This is not the way that we treat children, that we should be treating children. I don't know how is it that it came to be that society thinks it's normal to treat children this way, because this is not how we would treat a neighbor. This is not how we would treat a teacher. This is not how we would treat a wife or a husband or a friend. So nevertheless, how can we treat a child that's weak and vulnerable this way? We talk about bullying in schools. We talk about how these children that are bullying others, most of the time they're bullied at home. And if you're pulling your children's ears, and if you are yelling at them and shaking them and squeezing their arms, that's bullying. You are bullying your own children. And the worst part about this is that you break the relationship between you and that child. You break the bond between you and that child. And what happens is then you are no longer the most important influence in that child's life. They have lost respect for you, and now their peers become their main influence. And it's really sad because, children that have a strong bond with their parents, they're more likely to listen to their parents. They're more likely to cooperate. They're more likely to want to please and obey their parents. So just knowing that by you having a strong bond and connection with your children, you're going to be able to fix so many behavior problems that your children are already going through by just having a good bond and relationship. I want to challenge you that if you are using violence in your home today, that you say, today's the day that I stop. So many people come from households where this was normal. And so they continue the cycle. They hit their children, and then those children hit their children, and it goes on for generation after generation after generation. But it has to come a point where you break the cycle. I was not exempt from corporal punishment, but I knew that I had to stop the cycle and that I wasn't going to continue that in my family. And an alternative to hitting and violence is boundaries and consequences. Establishing rules in your home. Teaching your children what it means to say no, what it means to have a boundary. Because you can go from being a tyrant abuser to being a permissive parent, and that is just as bad. You can't just let kids run loose and do whatever they want. You have to have boundaries and consequences in your home. And let the consequences do the yelling. Consequences are powerful tools to mold behavior. Give you an example. If a child is throwing blocks, instead of you spanking them, hitting them, yelling at them, just take those blocks away and let them experience the loss of that toy. If a child is in a playground and they are misbehaving in a playground, then you have them sit down right next to you right there, and they're going to sit there and experience not playing anymore. Consequences send powerful messages. When they're done with the consequence, you can talk to them and give them alternatives to changing their behavior. But consequences work so well. I've made a whole series on my tribe, my Bloom Sisters community, where I go through how to establish boundaries and how to apply different boundaries that really work, like removal of privileges and logical and natural consequences. They work. They work. So I want to challenge you, if you are spanking your children at home, you can use consequences and boundaries to discipline instead of spanking. It works. It's powerful. I also want you to know that if you have hurt your children for many years, can there be healing in your family? And I want to say yes. It is never too late to heal as a family. And the first thing that I would do is I would bring my family together in a circle and I would apologize to my children. I am sorry because I hurt you, and I will never hurt you again. And I make a vow never to hit. And we are not going to hit in our family. You will not hit. I will not hit. We do not touch each other. We do not show that type of disrespect in our family. And you make your rules and your boundaries, and you establish a set of rules in your house, and you establish a set of boundaries and consequences that are going to follow if those rules are broken, that don't constitute spanking or yelling or hurting. And things will change. Children will change. Children will transform. It's so important because, a lot of people, they want to change the world, and they go on mission trips and they do all types of things. But it starts in the home with children, because if we want to change the world, it starts with our family. It starts with our family. And it starts with children, because those are the children that in the future, they are the ones that are walking around with anxiety and depression and mental illnesses, and prisons are filled with hurt children. So if we want to change the world, it starts with the children that we have in our homes right now. Love on your children. Stop the cycle of hitting. If you vow to stop the cycle of hitting, leave me a comment in the comments below. Come join me on my Bloom Sisters community where I guide you through. I have a whole series on applying consequences and boundaries. I'd love to help you one-on-one. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I hope that it has, touched you in a special way. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.